it's Nurse J at Nursing the Truth. I hope everyone's having a great day. So, been busy a little bit, have another doctor's appointment today, but Nurse J is okay, friends. So, anyway, I hope you all have enjoyed my Josephus and the PISO family and their crooked little woven web that we now call the Bible. So, as I have said before, was Nero as bad as what we have been told? You know, friends, as we know, the victors get to write the history books. And little Sonny has just came from outside and liked to join in my video. So, Sonny, tell everyone hello. And maybe you can howl for him. Oh, oh. Okay, so Sonny is giving her shout out to you guys. So she loves you as well. So anyway, she's crazy today. She's missed her mama. So anyway, really, was Nero as bad as what we've been told? Well, friends, I suggest that you go and read the Annals of Tacitus and the 12 Caesars by Suetonius. Now, as we know, Josephus, which is Arius Calpurnus Piso, other names as well, because Josephus was his pen name, he had other names too, as Montanus and Antonius Primus and Prime and Verus and Cestus Gallus and Florus. You know, all the people that are in the Bible. So, anyway, another person that you need to check out is the PISO Christ that was written by Roman PISO and J. Gallus. Now, the thing about it is, friends, is when I told you about the Tiberius reign of where they wanted to have a council to make a new religion for Rome, and then under Claudius / Nero, they didn't want to have any part of it. Now, then here we go again. King Agrippa was a family member of the Flavians. See, the Herods were the Hasmoneans / Maccabees wannabes, and they were put in by Rome. Mark Antony put Herod the Great in Judea. Now, Herod the Great's family member had married one of Vespasian's family members. So now we have the Herodian Flavian dynasty. Also, Josephus has a family member of Mark Antony and Octavia. So therefore, you get a lot of those ties in. So anyhow, with the Nero conspiracy, or the Neronian conspiracy in 65 AD, Josephus's father was killed he committed suicide because he wanted Nero killed to where they could rule Rome. Now, Julius Caesar, married into the Piso family, but Calpurnia Piso and him did not have children. All right, so the Pisos were also called like the little Caesars because their names are like Ciceronus or something like that. Hopefully I'm saying it correctly, but who cares? But anyway, so now you have a situation where you have the Flavian dynasty, the Caesar dynasty fighting over power. Now, the Pisos were one of the richest family or the richest family in Rome or in Italy or even in the whole area at the time. Even Cicero was exiled from one of the having a confrontation with the Pisos. And I have a book by Robert Harris called Dictator, which is about Cicero's exile. So even Cicero didn't like him. Cicero was an honest man and forthright and was a great man. And so very popular, but he was afraid of his own life, I'm sure. So a lot of bad backroom deals were done, this Piso family. And so what you have to understand is that Claudius, Emperor Claudius from 41 to 54, he got back the Piso because Caligula, his nephew, had taken one of the Piso's wives and had his way with her. And then the Pisos divorced, and so Caligula dies. I'm sure the Piso had his hand in it as well. So Claudius calls him back from exile, and he is co-counsel with him. So now they're co-counseling, and Claudius helps out King Agrippa. He helps with the Jews. That's another video. I'm going to tell you about the pact that the Senate gave to the Jews and Romans. You're really going to scratch your head on this. But anyway, so now we have Claudius dies. He gets quote-unquote poisoned by Nero's mother, Agrippina the Younger. And Claudius had adopted Nero as his son to be the next in line, even though he had Britannicus to his own flesh and blood son. But Agrippina had her own thoughts and her own ways on how she wanted to run the empire. So anyway, now we have a situation that Nero is doing and trying to help out the people. You know, there are some good and bad reviews about Nero, but he did a lot of good things for Rome. He wanted Romans to kind of worship the way they wanted. I mean, he didn't care. You can worship the Roman pantheon. You know, really, were the Jews kicked out of Rome under Claudius's reign? I doubt it. Because Claudius at the time gave protection to the Jews and throughout the whole entire Roman Empire that they could worship and no harm come to them. Okay, so that's an edict. So now Nero has his wives, I believe Lepida, and then you have Octavia, and then you have Poppaea Sabina, which Poppaea Sabina is a Jew. So he loved her very much. So I very seriously doubt that he did any harm to the people that practiced Judaism at that time. He knew that the Pisos were watching him and they had a conspiracy against him. And all of this was going on from 54 to 68, you know, his reign. Now, he died in 68. Well, the Jewish War started in 66. And basically, it was the priesthood fighting against each other. You know, the Sadducees and the Pharisees, you know, the ones that were orthodox and, you know, taking the money. And the Pharisees basically wanted to help the poor and, you know, everyone in Judea. And they had their own take on things. So really, we had the two priesthoods at the time fighting over things. But then you also had your zealots and your Essenes as well. Now, there were 4 types of Essenes at the time that Hippolytus talks about. as well. The pacifistic Essenes, the more, murderous Essenes, all for the Torah, nothing else, all Israel, no one else. So you really have to also study the Dead Sea Scrolls to figure out what type of militant people we're talking about. It wasn't a situation to where, as we have in the scriptures, that it's just for the Gentiles. No, that is not true. In the scriptures it says, I only come from the lost sheep of the house of Israel. That's true. This Jesus was only coming for the lost house or the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He wasn't looking for Gentiles. He wasn't looking for Romans. He wasn't looking for anyone else except the people that worshiped that particular religion of the day, because this was a messianic prophecy. They were looking for someone to be the king of Israel, to overthrow the Roman government. The only way anyone was crucified was to do an insurrection against the empire of Rome. They didn't care who you worshiped. They didn't care about anything. So long as you paid your taxes and you were a good boy and girl, they didn't care. So that's the only reason why you would get crucified. So know your laws of Judaism and know your laws of Roman history. So anyhow, so now we have the situation where PISO wants to kill Nero. He wants to be in charge, just like he was with Claudius, right? Josephus' father was with Claudius. So now Nero is like, no, I don't want anybody ruling with me, yada, yada. So, he sends a lot of help to the Jewish people, Nero does. I know a lot of people don't get that. So he wants to kind of get things contained and be squashed and get it all contained and don't be, figuring out what's going on. And, he has so many crooked people in his Senate and guards and councilships that really, he's trying to do the right thing, but you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know who you can trust, just like you don't know who you can trust today. So he actually, liberated the Greeks. He actually had, taken away some taxations from some places. Just like Claudius, he freed Rhodes, and he didn't make Troy pay taxes. So what you have to understand is Claudius and Nero, they were trying to liberate people and let people take care of their own systems. Even though they were over the empire, they wanted them to kind of take up the slack. So in a way, I kind of feel sorry for Nero. I mean, I know that he was, trying to do his best, and he did a lot of good for the people. He was compassionate, I know, in some of the writings that Tacitus says. Also, Tacitus says that he does not believe that he murdered Poppaea Sabina because he loved her very much and he wanted children. Now, he did have a child with her named Claudia, but she died at 4 months old. And he was very, very upset about that and hardly could get over the loss of the child. So, you're going to have some people writing ugly things because they also have an agenda. So, he dies. So, Britannica dies. Domitian, they say, had a hand in that as well. So, Domitian comes up. And he's now the emperor. And so now he's got the no, excuse me, sorry, not Domitian. Galba, Galba. Then you had Ortho. Then you had Vitellius. And then you had Domitian. So, excuse me, Vespasian. Sorry. Those were the 4 emperors within the year, they call it. Okay, so you had Nero died, then you have Galba, Ortho, Vitellius, and then Vespasian. Now, Vespasian also had some humble beginnings as well. He had to sell and mortgage off his stuff to survive. His sons Titus and Domitian lived in some bad ways, but they did manage to get schooling, and so Vespasian, quote unquote, was humble beginnings, and